And just when Carol was getting as interesting as she's ever been, they go and give her the boot. Doesn't that suck? Walking Dead review for the episode Indifference. And this was probably, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the most character-driven episode that we've seen so far this season. Specifically centered around Dr. Bob and Carol, mainly Carol. So let's go through everything that happened with Carol. I mean, first we had the opening scene where she was talking and it was cutting back and forth between her talking to Lizzie and Rick, getting ready to go on the supply run. It was a very serious opening, carried a lot of weight to it, and you could definitely get the impression that something was going to happen to Carol at some point during the episode. That's just the feeling that I came away with watching that intro. And she kind of looks to Lizzie and her sister as sort of her new children, but at least at the beginning she's kind of conflicted with thinking that, but then by the end she seems to be okay with it, or maybe she just doesn't want to reveal those feelings to Lizzie. Either way, Lizzie is a very strange child to take on as a daughter. I mean, if there is any person in this group that needs to be exiled or banished because they pose a serious threat, it's that whacked out little girl. So throughout the episode, we have a bunch of scenes between Carol and Rick, because they're all alone on this run, and Carol, through their conversations, as far as she's concerned, she made the right decision to kill those two people. She thought what she was doing was for the good of the group. She's not really all that sorry about it. She said she didn't like doing it, but it had to be done, and now, let's move on. Let's just forget about it and move past it. Heck, she even threw some jabs in at Rick for him stepping back and just kind of, not wanting any part of the leadership. I love it, man. You could be a farmer, Rick. You can't just be a farmer. And they go, into Carol's past on the show, her history, stuff that happened with Sophia, and when she was with the worst husband ever, showing just how far the character has come over the 4 seasons of the show. Just going from this woman that was just beaten and taken advantage of and completely helpless and very, very annoying to now this woman that makes the tough choices, stands up for herself, and feels like she doesn't have to explain herself to anybody. And during the episode, they meet these really goofy, oddball characters. And we do get a cool little scene out of it with Carol popping the guy's shoulder back into place. Thought that was cool. And then more friction between Carol and Rick. Rick wants them to stay put. Carol's like, well, we could use them. It would make things faster. They'll be fine on their own. And damn, that really did not work out, especially for that girl, man. She lost her leg. She was completely torn apart across the street. Nasty stuff. And you can assume that the guy died too. I mean, they didn't explicitly say that he was dead, but I liked how Carol was like, well, that's it. Gotta get up and go. They had their chance. We gotta go. But Carol is, she's just too indifferent. As far as Rick is concerned anyway, she's killing people, their own group, much too easily, and she's much too willing to leave people behind. So Rick has to make the choice. He lets her go. Banishes her from the prison. And you could definitely see that coming. I mean, especially with that intro, you knew something was going to happen to Carol, and Rick was taking her out there for a reason. So yeah, he does banish her. I don't really know how I feel about that. I mean, I can see where Rick is coming from. And Carol, she's too far gone, he thinks, and that she's too dangerous to the group to keep her around. But the character was really starting to grow on me this season, and I liked the arc that they were doing with Carol. And I'm kind of bummed to see her go. Technically, I guess she's not on the show anymore. Whether she's off the show, forever or not, I don't know. I haven't read the comics, so I don't know what happens to her character there. I don't know any spoilers about what's coming up. But as of right now, she's not going to be on the show anymore. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it. And I think that's what the show was going for. So mission accomplished there. And just a little side note, if I were Rick, I wouldn't be handing out guns left and right to random people they just met. I mean, he's like, here's a gun, shoot some rounds off so we know where you are, we'll come find you. I'd be like, I'll keep the guns. Why don't you just break some glass or scream, and then we'll come find you. Don't hand some guns to some random people you just met when you have a limited supply, and they could potentially be crazy. Anyway, let's move on to Dr. Bob. He's with Michonne and Daryl and Tyrese, and we find out through his travels with them, that he's actually been a part of 2 other groups before this one, and he was the sole survivor of both groups. Everybody else that he was with, they all died. And he started drinking basically to just, drown out his sorrows, just so he could sleep at night. And he actually admits to Daryl that he thought about and came very close to taking that bottle during the shopping center run. And Daryl tells him, you're not alone anymore. Don't even think about it. You think you caused what happened at the shopping center. It's bullshit. Don't even let it get to you. Of course, Dr. Bob, he didn't listen very well. I mean, he really screws up because he fights like hell to get this bag back from the zombies, and it turns out all that's in it is some booze. And then he reaches for his gun when Daryl goes to throw it, and boy, does that piss Daryl off. So Bob, I felt sympathy for his character early in the episode, but then they kind of turned that back around against you, and I kind of felt betrayed by him at the end of the episode. So definitely not trustworthy, and he could also end up being a threat to the group. All right, so I actually had 2 favorite scenes in this episode. One of them was the scene right near the end where Rick tells Carol he's leaving her. He says, when Tyrese finds out, he's going to kill you. When the group finds out, they're going to banish you. And if it was just me and my kids and you and everybody else was dead, you wouldn't be coming with us. I would leave you behind. I thought that was very tense, very good stuff, powerful, really enjoyed it. My second favorite scene was Daryl taking absolutely 0 shit from Bob. And I mean, he got right up in his face, and I was just like, damn. Daryl's about to open up a can of whoop ass on somebody. Awesome to see Daryl just about completely lose his shit on Bob. And there wasn't really any part of this episode that I disliked. I thought those new characters that Rick and Carol found were kind of goofy, but it didn't really take away from the episode at all. I'm going to go ahead and give this episode Indifference an A-. I really enjoyed this episode. I certainly didn't think as Carol's arc started that this is where it was going to end up. And is she permanently off the show? Is she going to come back later, or possibly much later, as a completely changed person? Or is she really not going to come back at all, and this is just the end of her character? That would be a very unique way to go. I do have mixed feelings on it, but I think that's because I can see where both sides are coming from here, and that's what the show was going for, and they did a very good job with that. And that's pretty impressive, especially with The Walking Dead, when you consider that in the past, this show has had a difficult time setting up particularly the female characters to be anything more than just annoying. And what's going to happen when Daryl finds out that Carol's gone now? What's going to happen? Is Rick going to tell the group, Tyrese in particular, the real reason why Carol didn't come back, or is he going to lie to them? Alright, this has been an episode review for The Walking Dead. JB Squared 61279, and I will see you guys next time.